Community-Based Dialogues or CBD project is a cooperation between different stakeholders to promote and protect human rights in the Philippines. The partners include the Commission on Human Rights, the Armed Forces of the Philippines through the Center for the Law of Armed Conflict or CLOAC, the Philippine National Police through the Human Rights Affairs Office or HRAO, the Philippine Alliance of Human Rights Advocates or PARA, and Alternative Law Groups or ALG, with support coming from the Hans Seidel Foundation of Germany.
It's about creating spaces for conversation. And the reason why it is community-based, we go down at the regional level. We examine the regional situation together with the partners and try to be able to highlight those situations or problems that the community sees need addressing, and it needs to be conveyed to the security sector. So regional dialogues in each and every region, we go around the country, and as you know, the Commission on Human Rights is present in all regions. We have regional offices taking a lead in convening these dialogues to ensure that the issues that have been raised by the community are actually responded to by our security sector partners.
It is really very important for us to constantly to be in contact, to be in communication with the various stakeholders and the community to further better our policing system, to get the feelings of the people, how they feel about our services, so that we can also improve and we can also deliver the exact services that they need.
So what were the main issues that the project aimed to address? No? During that time, there is really lack of engagement and cooperation among stakeholders. We do not talk, no? Especially with the security sector. The citizens and governments as right holders and duty bearers respectively have different perspectives and issues, and we think it can and should be resolved by open discussions. So the project aimed to learn about human rights issues and concerns of all stakeholders, especially of the civil society organizations and communities, through dialogues, and address them appropriately and comprehensively if possible. So, is there any shared ownership or common goals ng project? No? Of course, no? For PARA, our shared goal is all human rights for all. We hope that the project will facilitate to unite us.
So dialogue is really something that we need to do to ensure that our human rights are not only promoted, but also protected, and also human rights violations prevented.
It was important also to have common understanding of human rights concepts and principles.
Everybody is protected by this Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations, and it promotes common understanding that our rights are supposed to be primary in the society, and it should be protected by all means. So therefore, we have a commonality of target, which is the protection of our rights, the protection of the rights of the citizenry, the protection of the rights of our soldiers, the police, and even the prosecutors, and even the rebels that we confront in this country. And in other sectors like the terrorists, perhaps they have also their rights. They have also we have also to protect their rights, but they have to understand that the survival of the state and the survival of humanity depends on a peaceful means of living.
It's a no-holds-barred conversation. It's a frank conversation. And if there is openness on both sides, we should be able to see progress in the long run. Well, actually, the CBD was born in 2008, no? And during the time, it was President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo who was our president. And the Commission, as well as civil society, saw a rise in extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances.
And the president, during that time, also curtailed some civil and political rights of the people, including freedom of expression. Street rallies were met with water cannons, and many have been arrested and charged.
So that was the condition or the situation of the human rights in the country at the time, and Hans Seidel Foundation, as well as the alternative law groups and the Philippine Alliance of Human Rights Advocates, were in agreement along with the security sector that there needs to be something done about that situation. And the Community-Based Dialogues Project arose out of those conditions.
That is the reason why PARA joined the community-based dialogue, no? Because we believe we cannot attain our human rights in silos. We need to engage with the government because they primarily have the obligation to respect and protect human rights. There is no hesitancy on our part to engage, no? Because it is one of the strategies of our alliance in our work. Of course, there is always doubts in any partnership and cooperation, especially when there are questions of sincerity. However, during that time, the armed forces and the Philippine National Police took the initiative to establish their own human rights offices, and we think it was the first in Asia.
There are working mechanisms inside the AFP, aside from the AFP's partnership with the CHR and other interagency mechanisms to address human rights and offenses committed by military personnel. The conduct of the community-based dialogue sessions, or the CBDs, the trainings on civil political rights, the trainings on economic, social, cultural rights in the different regions was the avenue where the AFP, together with the PNP, the CHR, the ALG, PARA, to the Hans Seidel Foundation of Germany, were able to build trust.
And the agencies were then very closely cooperating with the Commission on Human Rights, so that gave us the trust. No? These efforts and opportunities gave us some degree of confidence that the project could work. In addition, of course, we trust the Alternative Law Group as project holder because we have been long-time partners, no? ALG and PARA.
After conducting community-based dialogues in all regions of the country, we developed a training handbook on civil and political rights, and later on, a training handbook on economic, social, and cultural rights. The modules from the two training handbooks were incorporated into the training programs of both the AFP and PNP and are now being taught in human rights trainings of their personnel.
Because the formal relations established by government agencies and CSOs through the project is critical to ensure that policies, agreements, and decisions are institutionalized. Because we're speaking for our agencies and organizations, we expect that these agreements will be subscribed by the partners. It is also important because the government partners have the opportunity to also know the CSOs and also NGOs and POs in the ground and facilitate working relations with them.
So you get to know who they are, you get to know their personal circumstances, and you get to be friends with them. And therefore, if you do that, the institutional requirement and task to build not only relationships, individual and personal relationship, but rather institutional relationship will be established.
We can explain to the people, to our stakeholders, the projects, activities, and programs that we have, understand our organization, the culture that we have in the Philippine National Police, and of course, their feedback on how we perform.
Another milestone is the signing of the La Bresa Declaration in 2012. It is a statement of cooperation between the CHR, AFP, PNP, and other law enforcement agencies to continue to work together to promote and protect human rights. The top-level and regional-level policy dialogues were developed as an effort to identify possible policy changes in the guidelines and operational procedures of the security sector.
So another impact perhaps of the project is the protection of members in hostile environment. I really have a very good example on this. When a military operation was being conducted in Tampakan in South Cotabato against indigenous people's community, and our NGO member in the ground reported on this. So the AFP Human Rights Chief Pareño, Chair Eta Rosales of CHR, and myself were on the phone monitoring the operations of the AFP, and the chief reminding their troops on the ground to really observe yung mga rules of engagement. And I think that was really very good example. Easily, we can also send complaints even by text or by phone calls to the police and the military if there are any untoward incidences.
Institutionalization of the program within the partner organizations themselves, meaning the AFP, PNP, CHR, as well as with the CSOs, leads to sustainability of the program.
Just to say that the Commission on Human Rights, through this Community-Based Dialogues project, has been able to institutionalize it within the Commission. It's part and it's an integral part of the way we work, because the process of the community-based dialogues actually enabled us to be able to reach the grassroots, to be able to engage with the community, and to enable us to also convey what human rights is in everyday language. And I think that's very important.
Some regional CBD groups were able to successfully pass a resolution for the adoption of the CBD program with the Regional Development Council and the Regional Peace and Order Council. And this also helped to sustain the gains of the program in the regions.
Well, as of the moment, we are facing a political and human rights crisis in the Philippines, and this was brought about by the current dispensation's cornerstone policy, which is really the war on drugs, the war on terror, and now the war on COVID, which all feature the securitization of the solutions that they propose. It's difficult in this context to dialogue with government agencies, and more so with the security sector, particularly the armed forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police, because the heads of these government institutions are only supposed to follow the orders of the chief executive. No? So in this context, it is difficult to actually arrive upon alternative policies that the community-based dialogue project is aiming for.
Roadblocks are not there forever. One thing we are certain is that change is the only constant in this world. So even if circumstances may appear grim at some point, keep in mind, it will not always be that way. We must persevere, keep the faith, seek out opportunities, innovate, and do what we can in the current available space.
There is so much room for improvement for our organization, and we have to bring that to the front lines. We should bring that to the community.
A more peaceful human rights situation is something that both sectors want. So we need to proceed with that goal. And sometimes in the process, you need to take a step back to be able to move 2 steps forward, and that's normal in any project and in any endeavor, especially when it involves continuing a dialogue with seemingly counterparts that are not in effect are not regarded as trustworthy.
We need the community which we are serving. Based on the Constitution, the Armed Forces of the Philippines is the protector of the people in this state. And in so doing, we need also to understand their plight. We need to understand the situation. together with other stakeholders like government sector, government organizations. Likewise, we have the non-government organizations to help us in our quest for peace in our country.
For now, essentially, the most that can be achieved in this platform is really planting seeds in terms of ideas and alternatives, convincing the good individuals that are within government, and there are many, who currently have their hands tied, so that when political and democratic space becomes wider again, when the decision-making isn't dictated by the chief executive anymore, and decision-making becomes pluralistic again, then of course we have been able to invest in these good ideas. So even now, it is still good to have these meetings, these dialogues, so that we can establish understanding in advance amongst the various stakeholders, the various parties. And that includes good people in the military and policing sector.
The objective is to continue the dialogues and altogether to act to resolve human rights issues.
We are in a crisis brought by the pandemic and the poverty that we have right now. We really need to be together, stand up for our country, stand up for our fellow men. We should talk. We should come together.
What's important is we continue the conversation. We continue the hard conversations, because that has to happen. And sooner rather than later, I think those conversations will bear fruit. It's investment in our future. If we stop talking to one another, then we will have failed our future. We won't reach what we want, to have better working relations, to have a better human rights situation in the country.
Overall, we would like to say that the project created opportunities and avenues for dialogue, partnership, engagement, and cooperation between the security sector and civilian community to discuss and address human rights-related issues and concerns. The formula to success is perseverance, willingness to work with like-minded people, positivity, and the audacity to brave new paths.